This week on Arizona Illustrated, we hike, bike, and ride the 800-mile Arizona Trail.
In a state known for nothing but deserts, we have many good secrets.
The distinctive sequence, echoes, and history of U of A's clock tower chimes.
The auditory experience is different depending on where you happen to be listening.
Addressing the need for behavioral health services in schools.
If we don't give them voice, we're going to miss the boat.
And the first in our series of favorite places, the University of Arizona's main gate. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. The Arizona National Scenic Trail, or Arizona Trail as most know it, stretches 800 miles through deserts, mountains, forests, canyons, and is a chance to encounter the state's diverse history and people. The route provides unparalleled opportunities for hikers, mountain bikers, equestrians, and other trail users, as you'll see in this Part 1 of the Arizona Trail.
In a state known for nothing but deserts, we have many good secrets.
Really is a gem to have it here.
We're at the U.S.-Mexico border on the Arizona National Scenic Trail. This is Border Monument 102, and it marks the southern terminus of the Arizona Trail. From here, trail users can go 800 miles all the way from Mexico to Utah. It doesn't all look like this, though. There's a variety of different environments that you'll see. You'll see everything from grasslands to giant saguaro cactus to the largest ponderosa pine forest in the entire world, and cross rim to rim in the Grand Canyon, crown jewel of the Arizona Trail, before reaching Utah.
We built good, sustainable trail, we provide trailheads and access, but really the experiences that people have out there are their own. Whether they're hiking or running or mountain biking or horseback riding, they get to experience like a raw, beautiful side of Arizona that they probably wouldn't see otherwise.
Well, I grew up in Colorado, so I enjoyed the mountains there. Moved to Florida and it's flat. Very different from where I'm from, enjoying the mountain air. The views are tremendous, to be able to see across miles and miles and miles. So I just enjoy being out with my family.
After trail users travel about 50 miles from the Mexican border, they reach the gateway community of Patagonia, where we are today. There's 33 gateway communities on the Arizona Trail, and each one of these helps not only the trail users to resupply and get back on the trail, but the trail users themselves bring a lot of money into these communities through resupply, places to stay, places to eat. It's a very important relationship between the trail users and the gateway communities.
It is important to us to grow the ecotourism as the base of our economy, and any increased activity that comes to the Arizona Trail will be of benefit to our community here at Patagonia, and people will enjoy being here. It's a win-win for everyone.
Wherever I go, I'm always improving the trail because as a cowboy, I do a lot of that trail maintenance. So I contacted the organization just to let them know what I was doing, and they said, oh, you should become a segment steward, you know, and they roped me in. They got me in official. I'm not an official type of person, but they got me signed up as an official segment steward, and boy, I just have had so much fun with it ever since. I don't know why it took that long to get involved.
Volunteers have been critical to the Arizona Trail ever since its inception. It's volunteers who built the trail. It's the largest volunteer project in Arizona's history to build 800 miles of trail across the state. as well as we have volunteers who maintain the trail, go out on work events, and provide information for people looking to use the trail.
I've been taking care of this segment for 11 years.
It was still being built when I got involved with it, and Carrie and I became part of the Cienega, closed the gap 25 miles in 2 years, and we started helping with that, and we became segment stewards together.
I was very excited about the fact that it was going to be something that was not only going to be here, but be able to last for generation after generation. So I started doing crew leading on building the trail, and just over time started to kind of have a little bit of maybe a love affair. So then I wanted to become more involved with the trail.
I was helping a lot of other people get through certain segments of the trail, and then I got to thinking, golly, you know, I kind of like to do this myself.
There's a lot of diversity in the trail and so much variety, and I think it surprises a lot of people how it's constantly changing.
Here at Colossal Cave Mountain Park, about 5 miles away from Cienega Creek on Passage 8, Rincon Valley. It's beautiful out here. There's fantastic trail for hikers, bikers, and equestrians. And this is also where we do our Arizona Trail Day.
I knew it existed. It's pretty awesome. I am section hiking it right now, and it's a lot of fun, great outdoor activity to get some sunshine and fresh air.
One of the ways that you can do things is to send yourself packages ahead of time to the Gateway communities, or you can just resupply in the Gateway communities, pick up some extra food for the next leg.
I've seen a lot of hikers come through. It's an awesome, awesome little wayfare as they're headed north, you know. They mail themselves packages and drop by, and sometimes they mail themselves things on their way out.
This is a very special place for me because this is where my entire Arizona Trail journey began. This is where I got the idea to hike the entire length of Arizona. I hiked the Arizona Trail all day long from this trailhead, and when I was done, I realized there was so much more to do. I could keep going in either direction from Mexico to Utah. You don't need to do the entire Arizona Trail to enjoy it. You can go out and visit a trailhead, you can go for a day hike, you can go for a picnic. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, and so I tell people not to be intimidated by it, but just to kind of choose the pieces that they're most interested in.
I think one of the big things about the Arizona Trail is they want to open up the state to people, but not using asphalt and blacktop, and let people experience what the state has to offer.
Most teens spend the majority of their time in school, yet school can be a challenging environment for those who are living with a learning disability and/or mental illness. What, if anything, can a school offer to make students feel more at ease?
I think this is a place where they can just relax and chill and collect their thoughts before they go back out there. I feel like it's my second home.
At Desert Christian High School, the Student Services Room can be a sanctuary. the door is always open to students with learning disabilities, mental health disorders, emotional trauma, or other challenges that can make school a stressful place. Here, they can talk to tutors, work on projects, or find some respite from the day.
The idea is to meet the needs for that individual learner. And the way we look at it is that it honors that kid for their humanity, the way they are, the way they were designed to learn.
Desert Christian is an independent faith-based school, but secular private and public schools are also exploring ways to support students' mental health, largely because the demand has never been higher. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, about 20% of teens experience a mental health disorder in any given year, and that prevalence is on the rise.
It increased dramatically over the years. Students with ADD, and not only that, but students with really serious issues like schizophrenia, students with bipolar disorder.
Okay, so we'll know how much money we have for our
As a former teacher and counselor, and as the current director of student services for the Marana Unified School District, Cindy Ruich helps implement a multi-level system of support for students who are struggling socially or emotionally.
We want school to be a safe place where they feel valued and so that they're able to learn. Because if their social emotional is not intact, they're not going to be ready for the academic side.
But without guidelines or requirements for mental health support, schools are inconsistent in what they offer. And with resources stretched thin, many schools can't keep up.
Marana High School has like 2,200 kids and 4.5 counselors. And if you look across Pima County, not all schools have counselors. You know, and some districts use social workers at certain grade levels, but have nothing at elementary. With all of the budget cuts from the State Department, unfortunately, counselors are one of the first people, or I should say employees, that school districts cut. So there is not a standard across Pima County or across Arizona. The focus is really on academics. And it's not, people don't want to talk about mental health. Mental health really has a stigma, and so we don't want to talk about that.
And in terms of the prevalence of mental illness.
Psychologist Patricia Harrison Monroe works with teens and young adults and has seen that stigma keep students from seeking or getting help.
Some people assume that you just need to pull yourself together and stop whining and you should be okay. And so there's a lot of misinformation within the school system, I think, that just kind of gets perpetuated. It's a reflection of our society in general.
She says the key is educating educators about mental health and emotional trauma.
That means opening yourself up to trainings, being willing to spend the time to learn more, being able to look at an individual student and say, here are several of the warning signs that I've learned about recently. I need to make a referral. I need to tell somebody. I need to really, if it's beyond my level or my ability to intervene, I need to do something with that information versus ignoring it and hoping, the child will either go away, transfer out of the school, or just grow out of it.
In the Center for Child Well-Being at Arizona State University, researcher Judy Kreisig is making that training more accessible. She and her colleagues have designed online modules that teach teachers how to recognize emotional distress and make the classroom more mental health friendly.
Children cannot achieve when they are traumatized, when they have other things that are going on that aren't being addressed in the classroom. So I believe this is something that can actually help teachers to help children succeed in the classroom.
Teachers can work through the modules at their own pace.
These are conditions that increase the likelihood a child will recover from a traumatic event or events,
playing out classroom scenarios and answering questions as they go. The goal is for teachers to learn to integrate mental health awareness into everything they do.
It's almost like we treat children as if they come in pieces. So the school deals with the education, the medical doctor deals with the physical health. But that's not the reality, is that children go to school with all their pieces. They're social, they're emotional, as well as having to learn. We have to deal with the whole child, and we have to help teachers to help the children.
And when that happens, Cindy Ruich says every child can have a chance at the education he or she deserves.
We need to find that balance where people have the education they need to really understand a mental health issue, number one. What does that mean for a kid? Does it mean that they can't learn? No, it doesn't mean they can't learn. But really they need that level of understanding, I believe. If we don't give them voice, we're gonna miss the boat, I believe, on really helping them to be as successful as they can be.
Like what you see on Arizona Illustrated? Visit our webpage at azpm.org to watch and share videos from this episode. You'll also find stories from future programs, an easy way to submit your own story idea, an archive of past episodes of Arizona Illustrated, and you'll find everything you need to stay connected with public broadcasting in Southern Arizona. azpm.org. Ever notice those chimes that sound every 15 minutes on the University of Arizona Mall? Those aren't just any chimes. They're a method of marking time in public places around the world. And on the U of A campus, they have a sound and resonance unlike anywhere else.
The bell's ringing?
Dun dun dun. Sorry, I'm not good at singing. Bum 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 bum.
If I'm walking, I'll hear those bells.
The bells in the main administration building?
Well, it was the chimes for the clock. They tell us what time it is every 15 minutes and on the hour.
And then, if you hear the right ring, it's 2 o'clock or something like that. Don't even need a watch.
So this is for people without watches?
It's like my grandmother's chime had, she had an old grandfather clock that had a similar chime.
Yeah, it is my doorbell at home. I've never thought about that.
Well, I guess it gives someone a job, right? The bell ringer. They're not real bells? It's a recording?
The Westminster Quarters make up a pattern of notes that we hear all the time if we want to know what time it is. And it dates back to the late 18th century, when in Cambridge, England, at Great St. Mary's Church, there was a new clock, but some musicians, possibly a law professor with the help of a music professor and a music student, came up with this series of notes that we now hear to mark time all over the world. Now in 2016 at the University of Arizona, we have the same pattern of notes that we hear at Big Ben. It's called the Westminster Quarters. First 4 notes that we hear, this is for 15 minutes. At 30 minutes, this is what we hear. And so what we get here at the hour is you don't have to write a complicated melody to make a melody that people are going to listen to, understand, appreciate, or get something out of. And this is a great example of that. I can imagine that at different places on the mall, you're going to get a very different impression of this tune.
The auditory experience of hearing these bells is different depending on where you happen to be listening. The mall is set up beautifully to create a lot of reflections back and forth from the north side to the south side. We picked this particular spot because we're going to make a recording with the bell sound passing by our microphone, and it's going to travel across the mall, and it will reflect off of the very flat surface of the Koffler building and come back, and we'll also then record the reflection. Before we do the next recording, I'm going to make a measurement of the distance from this recording over to the Koffler building. 6.5 feet, 3, 24, 25, 26, and the middle tile is actually bigger. That gives us 13 feet, 6, 47, 48, 49, 50, All right, so we counted 104 tiles on this sidewalk. I'm going to log that in here, 104 feet. The other piece of information we need in order to know exactly what the speed of sound is today is the air temperature. Here at 6:07 p.m. on July 20th, 2016 is 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Last week we made recordings on the U of A Mall of the chimes that go off every quarter of an hour. I'm waiting now for Matt to come over from the music department, and I'm going to show him some of the analyses that I've done since our recording last week.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking with Brad about what he found out about the Westminster chimes and how they sound different parts of campus, and what that means for how we experience this piece that a lot of us don't even think about experiencing, but it's part of our life here at the U of A.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
Brad Story. Good to meet you.
Good to see you.
Well, come on in. I think we're gonna.
All right.
I want to show you some data that we recorded last week. So this is a map of the U of A Mall, and the sound source is somewhere on top of the administration building. The effect that people experience, the auditory effect, is that you get extra beats that pop up depending, and they're different depending on where you happen to be standing. So the hypothesis is that it's coming from reflections off buildings.
We like to think of music as, here's the score, these are the notes, and we analyze them, but to think that it might have this kind of origin, and that it's still being, more than 250 years later, it's still being reinvented just automatically by our environment, that these pitches are being reinvented.
You write the music, but then you launch the music into whatever environment it happens to be, and it takes on the life of that context.
I don't often go outside and think, oh, it's 5:55, I'm gonna go check out the Westminster chimes, but I think it's something I might start to do and just really say, this is part of all of our environment here.
And if you think about a typical undergraduate being here, let's just say fall and spring semester for 4 years, they're going to hear those somewhere between 15 and 20,000 times.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And so it becomes a part of every graduate's experience at the U of A.
Yeah, it's the soundtrack for their experience. And,
yes.
And it's easy to take for granted.
Right. So, that along with Bear Down, Arizona.
Right, exactly. This is more heard than Bear Down, Arizona. So
absolutely.
Way more
Certainly
heard,
is.
Yeah.
And now it's time for Favorite Places, our limited series featuring architects speaking thoughtfully and personally about a favorite building, place, or space in southern Arizona. For one-time student Robin Schambach, first impressions years ago of the environs of the University of Arizona's main gate are now given life by her current passion and career as an architect.
As I entered through the main gate entrance of the University of Arizona as an 18-year-old freshman, I had no knowledge of its history. But I instinctively felt that the organization of the space, the scale and materials of the buildings, and the integration of the landscape made this a college campus like those I had read about or seen in movies. Main Gate and the historic West Campus District made me feel like I was on the college campus I had always imagined. That traditional feeling was not just my imagination. The 1919 UA Master Plan by John Beatty Lyman is similar to the Thomas Jefferson Plan for the University of Virginia. The secondary row of dormitories and the use of curving paths and streets, in contrast to the symmetrical and classical characteristics of the building, are distinctly Jeffersonian. At the same time, I felt a familiarity with the place. The grass lawns, trees like olives, pines, and cypress, and the flood basin irrigation were so reminiscent of my origins in the small community on Oak Creek in the Verde Valley. There, yards and fields were irrigated by ditches, and the early pioneers imported trees and plants from their eastern homes. Many of the trees located in West Campus are included in the campus arboretum, and some, like the Chinese pistachio, are designated heritage trees. Although this part of campus has a public nature, there is also a sense of personal ownership, particular places that feel private. The arcade of orange trees between Gila and Maricopa Halls is my favorite example of this. For you, it might be the turtle pond, or one of the benches that line the tree-shaded path, which looks out over the flood basins and the lava rock wall to the busy street life on Park Avenue. Now that the main gate area has new vibrancy with restaurants, shops, and the modern streetcar, the tranquility of the West Campus Historic District provides the same respite and pleasure it has for more than 100 years.
You can meet the architect, view a map, and watch the video of all 13 favorite places on the Arizona Illustrated page at azpm.org. Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Next week, part 2 of our trek across the Arizona Trail, an attempt to harness the power of the internet to understand and treat Alzheimer's. Our community comes together to give the Arizona Theater Company a huge helping hand. And kicking back in our next favorite place, the Cushing Street Bar Courtyard. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.